Welcome, welcome. You're listening to the Drink a Little podcast where we talk about exploring the world of wine and spirits while not letting it take over your life. My name is Kelly Doherty. I'm a joyful child of God and a certified life coach. I'm also a wine educator and wine and spirits brand designer. I'll show you how you can navigate your relationship with alcohol and how that mindset spills over into the rest of your life. We'll learn about the world of wine and spirits together, all while bolstering your confidence that you can have boundaries around alcohol and live your most amazing life. This is episode 30, Choosy. And how this works is we taste a little wine at the top of the show and see where that wine leads us into talking about. Today, we're going to talk about your relationship with alcohol and choosing for your future self. So today we are tasting the 2019 Criterion Pinot Noir from Central Otago, which is in New Zealand. And the grapes are coming from the South Island of New Zealand. It's actually the most southerly wine region in the world. And this is a gorgeous region. It's got mountains that are really protecting the area from very cold ocean breezes on a small island. So it's got dramatic landscape, mountains, rivers, gorges, and that is where our gorgeous wine comes from today. And it's a 2019, so it's had a little time to come into its own. I'm excited to jump in here and taste. Give it a little extra pour there. And a swirl. And I see. It's got a lot of herbal on the nose, like flowers, like violet, maybe even some thyme, and definitely some cherry. So let's give it a taste. This has got, when I read their notes, it said black cherry, but I'm getting red cherry, a little bit of sour cherry, which is typical of Pinot Noir. It's gorgeous, but it's interesting to see that they think black cherry, I think red cherry, and it simply can be a difference in the perception of what I'm tasting. So the drinker is always right, right? And I would love to know what you guys think. Pinots are known for being light, and this is very light bodied, but don't mistake that lightness for lack of complexity. This is very textured. I got some spice in there, and I actually looked at the label where they've got their own pairing. And it says lobster with pea ravioli. That sounds amazing, but probably not happening for me right now. Salmon with wild mushroom risotto with this Pinot Noir. That might work. That might happen in my kitchen. Let's see. And what attracted me to this wine was the name Criterion. And in looking more into this brand, it's not actually a vineyard or a winery. And that's what I want you guys to understand when you're in the wine aisle. Sometimes there's brands and sometimes there are vineyards that might just be very small boutique. And sometimes there's brands that own a lot of vineyards all over the place and they blend towards a single style. So in this case, what this brand Criterion is doing is they're looking for a quintessential wine of a certain area all over the world to put their stamp on. And so they've chosen this Pinot Noir from Central Otago, New Zealand. But when you look at other things in this wine label Criterion, they have like a Carmenera from Chile. They've got a Chianti Classico from Northern Italy. And they've got, Central Italy. Sorry, Sangiovese. And they've got a Beaujolais Village from Beaujolais, France, which is really interesting. I want to try that one because if you guys go back to episode number 1 of this podcast, it was on not this brand, but it was on a Beaujolais Village. It was Louis Jadot, I believe. And it kicked off this whole podcast journey talking about balance in wines and balance in our lifestyle. So that does tie into to today. And all of these are branded under this quintessential style of each region, hence the name Criterion, which wine has the criterion that makes this quintessential style. So, of course, I think Criterion is an amazing coaching topic. If we can define that word, it really means the principle by which something can be judged or decided. And we've talked about that judged word, and I have a little bit of hesitation bringing that up in a way in this episode, but we've talked about how it can be painful judgment when we judge ourselves or others. But in this episode, we'll talk about judgment in deciding or determining a standard for ourselves. And so it's very different than judging oneself for one's actions or judging other people. It's really pre-thinking a standard that we'd like to hold ourselves to. And I wanted to ask myself and you, what is your defining standard or defining standards for your life? And sometimes that's too big of a question. So I'd love to break it down into parts. Parts of your life could be personal relationships or your work ethic. What is your standard for your work ethic? How do you want to show up in the world? What is your relationship with alcohol? What is your relationship with money? All of those can have standards. They're places where you can start looking at defining those standards. It doesn't always have to be the most serious topic, but acknowledging that those little things do add up if we don't have standards. So when you raise your standards, you're raising your vibration in the world. You're raising your capacity for things to come to you. You're raising your own potential. And so when you're looking at how you want to create life in a forward-thinking space and not just letting things happen to you, you have to define those criteria you want to live by. And it's challenging because you're always defining it from a space that you're currently in and at this moment, and not a space that you want to be in. So that's where some coaching comes in to kind of look at those from an external perspective. And so this came up in a session I had where I was talking to someone who was just automatically grabbing for that glass of wine with dinner almost without realizing it. And when it wasn't immediately available, then it was noticeable. She noticed it when she was going into the fridge and there was nothing there. She was doing the regular, I'm about to chop vegetables and go into dinner making mode, and there was no wine in there. So she almost like caught herself in the middle of being automatic, where your subconscious brain is just going into a pattern. And this pattern in her case was obviously this is the time when we grab wine. And it's uncomfortable when you expect something there and you're in that pattern, and then that pattern is interrupted. And she did this purposefully, didn't buy a new bottle to put in there, but forgot and then got in there. And it was a totally different time when she made the decision than when she went to chop the vegetables and was expecting Chardonnay. So there's definitely, she came to me with the feeling that it was really uncomfortable and she didn't like it. But I asked, what is the standard or the criterion that you want to put into place? You've had that first bit of feeling uncomfortable and nothing really went wrong there. You were just more aware of what was actually happening. And so now you get to decide what the standard is and what are the situations that you do want to have wine in and how much for each different situation. So I'd love to have clients start with something super clean and simple, like a 24-hour period or a week planning, whatever works for you. And after a couple weeks, then you can start asking, like, what is the lifestyle I really want? I tried to plan this, it went well. I tried to plan this, it didn't go well. What is the lifestyle you want, and what are you trying to create, and why? And literally writing that standard defined criterion gets your brain to acknowledge this is where I want to be going. And it's possible for some people that is all they have to do. Defining it clearly really tells your brain the direction to go. And it's amazing how your brain will help you and help that work out over a period of time. this is possibly the only shift needed for some people. And for a lot of people, this is the start to something that may be a lot of back and forth, where coaching is something that can help. So coaching comes in where we talked about the times that worked, the times that didn't, what was different, what was the reaction to it working, and what was the reaction to it not working when you came upon that criteria that you're trying to change. And the coaching is really how can we be our own best friend through this? How can we help define what it looks like in the most loving way? How can we love ourselves through this to be okay with sometimes failing and building that resilience muscle and trying again? The main takeaway for today is just to know that once you have clearly defined that criteria in your brain, it does actually go to work and try to help you try to make it a reality. And I have a PS on this one. Please don't hear the word rules when I say the word criterion. I hear people say things like, well, it's too late to eat or too often to drink that. Something is too much this or too much that, as if some post on the internet told them the right or wrong for them. And just don't make it a prison with a whole bunch of rules. It doesn't have to be a lifestyle that you're defining to be restrictive. It needs to be a lifestyle defining the awesomeness and not the boundaries and tightness. It's what are the awesome things that we are looking for, that we can live for, that we can look forward to? What criteria are going to get us to those awesome things? And those are different for everybody. The criteria is different and the awesome things are different. So what criterion are you living for? And be choosy. Be super choosy about these. That is what I have for you this week, my friends. And next week, lovebirds, I've got a Côte de Roses rosé wine from France, perfect for Valentine's Day. And it's a gorgeous special bottle I want to show for you. So I can't wait to share that with you very soon. And if you're working on defining your criterion around your relationship with drinking or the patterns you're working towards in your life, I do teach to a deeper level. I have a one-on-one coaching program tailored to your needs where we cover how to stop over drinking, how to love yourself for all the right reasons, and emotional well-being. Go to kellydoherty.com/cheers to learn more. That's KELLYDOHERTY.com/cheers.